In the Solomon Islands, a new sound haunted the night. Not the familiar crack of naval guns, but a mechanical heartbeat of destruction. A relentless, percussive roar that Japanese sailors believed could only come from a new kind of automatic cannon. They were wrong. It was the sound of a single American cruiser, a St. Louis-class ship that had cheated death at Pearl Harbor. She had returned to the Pacific not merely repaired, but reborn as an instrument of pure retribution. This is the story of USS Helena. Forged in the depths of the Great Depression, Helena was more than just a naval asset. She was a statement. A nation building its way out of ruin was simultaneously crafting a new philosophy of warfare, engineered for a singular purpose: to overwhelm. Her 5 triple turrets housed 15 6-inch guns, a battery capable of launching a storm of steel at a blistering pace. In perfect conditions, she could unleash 150 shells per minute, a rate of fire so astonishing it would earn her the fearful respect of her enemies and the nickname that would define her legacy, the machine gun cruiser. Her story almost ended before it began. On December 7, 1941, she rested at a berth in Pearl Harbor that was meant for the battleship USS Pennsylvania. A last-minute scheduling change sent the battleship to dry dock, placing Helena directly in the path of a devastating twist of fate. A single Japanese torpedo, aimed at a battleship's profile, carved through the harbor and found Helena's hull. The explosion was catastrophic. Her engine and boiler rooms were instantly vaporized, and a wound large enough to fit a truck was torn open in her side. But steel can be broken, spirit cannot. Within 120 seconds of the explosion, with her engineering spaces flooding, her crew's training took over. Muscle memory and raw courage brought a diesel generator online, and her anti-aircraft crews met the second wave of attackers with a defiant barrage. Helena limped away from Pearl Harbor a casualty, but she would not return as one. At Mare Island, she became a laboratory for the Navy's brutal new lessons. She was not just being repaired, she was being transformed into a wounded veteran receiving battle-hardened upgrades. Her greatest transformation was the installation of the new SG surface search radar. In an environment where the Japanese owned the night, this gave her electronic eyes, the ability to pierce the darkest gloom and see enemies who believed they were invisible. This, combined with new 40mm Bofors anti-aircraft guns, turned her into a far deadlier warship. Her first test came in the blacked-out waters off Cape Esperance. The mission: to intercept the relentless Tokyo Express resupplying Guadalcanal. Peering through the darkness, Helena's radar operator saw them first: phosphorescent blips on a screen that represented an unsuspecting Japanese fleet. Her opening salvos were a complete shock, a perfectly aimed eruption of violence that slammed into the enemy flagship. Admiral Goto died in the first moments of the battle, believing he was being fired upon by his own ships, shattering the enemy's command and their illusion of invincibility. It was a stunning, clear-cut victory. For the first time, an American task force had met the Imperial Navy in the dark, on their terms, and won. Helena had proven that the night no longer belonged to Japan. Weeks later, she waded into a brutal close-range brawl in the infamous Iron Bottom Sound. It was less a battle and more a naval melee, with ships firing at point-blank range in a chaotic darkness where friend and foe were nearly indistinguishable. In the midst of this savagery, Helena was a beacon of lethal efficiency. While other ships struggled to identify targets, her radar-directed guns provided a critical edge, helping to batter a Japanese battleship and turn the tide of a desperate, bloody fight. She became a legend, a ship that seemed blessed. But luck in the Solomons was a finite resource, and as the campaign ground on, the law of averages began to weigh heavily against the celebrated cruiser. On the night of July 6, 1943, she steamed into Kula Gulf for what would be her final battle. Her greatest ally, the darkness, was stripped away by a bright full moon that illuminated the American column like ships in a bottle. Her gunners opened fire with their usual terrifying speed, but when her precious supply of flashless powder ran out, she switched to standard propellant. Each volley now erupted in a massive, blinding flare, turning her into a perfect aiming point for Japanese torpedo directors. The enemy unleashed their feared Type 93 long-lance torpedoes, weapons that ran farther, faster, and hit harder than anything the Allies possessed. 3 found Helena. The first was catastrophic. The next 2 struck amidships, snapping her keel and breaking her back. On the bridge, Captain Charles Cecil recognized the wounds were fatal. The ship was dying beneath them. With unimaginable gravity, he gave the order that every captain dreads: abandon ship. Yet even as she broke apart, Helena fought on. Her aft gun crews, refusing to quit, continued to serve their guns with mechanical precision, an act of pure defiance as the rising waters of the Pacific finally claimed them. The ship was gone, but the battle for her men had just begun. For days, survivors drifted in oil-slicked waters, battling the merciless tropical sun, the constant threat from below, and the slow creep of despair. In an incredible display of bravery, American destroyers charged back into hostile waters. Their crews, risking their own ships to torpedoes and air attack, formed human chains to pull their brothers from the sea, saving 700 men. For decades, Helena's story was a legend whispered by veterans. Then, in 2018, Paul Allen's research vessel RV Petrel finally located her wreck. She rests peacefully in the abyss, her hull number 50 still visible, a ghost from a world at war. Her loss drove changes in naval doctrine, and she was the first ship awarded the prestigious Navy Unit Commendation. Today, she rests on the seafloor, her guns still aimed towards her final fight, a symbol of a warship that took a devastating blow, rose from the ashes, and fought until her very last breath. Her guns are silent now, but her legacy echoes. She was more than steel. She was the iron will of the men who sailed her. In the annals of naval history, she remains what she always was, a testament to the unbreakable spirit of a ship that simply refused to die.